Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this Thursday's edition of Harmonize2Energize. My name is Terry Matthews. It's been a privilege and opportunity of mine to share aspects of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, self-help, and more recently, modalities with overlapping connections for about 4.5 years. And for those of you that are completely brand new or watching the replay, JIN SHIN JYUTSU per se is an art of
I'm
harmony.
watching JIN SHIN JYUTSU.
Excuse me, could you mute yourself? JIN SHIN JYUTSU is an art of harmonizing the life energy, or prana, or chi as it's sometimes called according to culture, as it moves through, excuse me, it's a little chilly here, energy pathways in the body, 17 or more of them, and we can regulate them by placing the palms of our hands, our fingers or thumbs, on what Mary Burmeister's JIN SHIN JYUTSU calls safety energy locks. And they're the equivalent, if you like, of the points that acupuncturists use. Only there's far fewer of them. There's only 26, left and right of the spine, 3 in the arms. And by placing our hands on these energy locks, we can move energy that may be stuck in those energy pathways, preventing our being from being in harmony. So that's what we do. It's all about an art of harmony or balance. And today, I wanted to continue the discussion which I began about, I think maybe 2 months ago, on the message of the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU as written by the original creator or founder or researcher, Master Jiro Murai from Japan. He described JIN SHIN JYUTSU in several different ways before settling on the art of compassion through, or the art of the creator, I should say, through a compassionate and aware human. And so we looked at that representation through a kanji, which is a calligraphic symbol that the Japanese use. And being that part of my training, one incarnation, I was in fact trained in graphic design. I was fascinated when one of the international teachers of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, Sadaki Kato, when he came to Scottsdale in 2014, he began the class by describing the movement of strokes of calligraphy. And for those of you that may be more familiar with Asian arts, practicing calligraphy is a way of preparing yourself, balancing yourself, as well as forms of acupressure, acupuncture, etc. And importantly, I feel, as I researched it more, it can help us embody the message of JIN SHIN JYUTSU. In JIN SHIN JYUTSU, we talk about the subdivision of our energy field into 3 areas: the soul, the mind, and the body. And there are different subdivisions in our body which represent them, and different safety energy locks that work to harmonize those particular areas. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that the kanji that Master Murai chose has 3 components. I'm not going to say that each one of them could be separated into soul, mind, and body. Maybe, but maybe it's more a connection between all 3 that creates that oneness. And so let's have a look at the screen to review what we did the first time around. There is the kanji that most of you, if you're familiar with JIN SHIN JYUTSU for a while, will be aware of. The kanji that appears on all the letterhead of the JIN SHIN JYUTSU organization, Mary Burmeister's JIN SHIN JYUTSU, and underneath the definitions. Jin, person of awareness and compassion, Shin, the creator, and Jitsu, the art. It's kind of upside down or in reverse, because actually we would say art of the creator through the person of awareness and compassion, which would be literally from this diagram, Jitsu Shin Jin. So when you look at those symbols, you may or may not get a feeling about them. You may or may not be able to relate to the understanding of them. What I'm going to suggest is that we connect to them energetically. There are 4 different ways that I'm aware of connecting to calligraphy. And today I'm going to focus mainly on what is considered, or at least what I've understood to be the most powerful way of embodying this message, these 3 components, and that is through tracing. I learned that separately from Sadaki and from JIN SHIN JYUTSU, although when Sadaki talked about it, I did actually show him a book which I had studied from a Chinese master, Master Zhigang Sha. And for any of you who are interested and fascinated, there is a book which I might recommend. It's called Tao Calligraphy. Why is it called Tao Calligraphy? Because Master Sha, I mean, we might say that the Tao in terms of JIN SHIN JYUTSU is 9th depth, the no thing, the space from which everything emerged. That's certainly how I see it. When I try, could you mute yourself? When I transcribe what I understand from JIN SHIN JYUTSU with what I understand from the Tao. Mary did use that word occasionally, but not as perhaps as often as people that have studied traditional Chinese medicine. Anyway, so there's the traditional kanji that most of you may be familiar with. And here we looked at it from the relationship of number and word. And I think it's interesting that at least recently, those of you that are aware of it, we were talking about the numerology of the year 2024 being an 8. And here we have the addition of the letters jitsu, the art of, come to an 8. So maybe in 2024, we're going to be more artistic in terms of our appreciation of the message of JIN SHIN JYUTSU. What do I mean by that? Maybe we're going to go to a 5 and erase all our fear about what is and what shouldn't be, and put off the old and bring in the new, which is what the JIN SHIN JYUTSU understanding of a number 5 is in relation to our understanding of the creator, which is also understood to be an 8. It's kind of interesting how these symbols do relate, but not necessarily in a logical order. And then Jin, which is that aware person of compassion, is a 6. And what is a 6 looking to do? It's looking to harmonize and bring balance. And when you add them all up, they come to the oneness, which is ultimately my understanding of what JIN SHIN JYUTSU is teaching us to do. Mary would always talk about we remember with JIN SHIN JYUTSU. It's not like something that we weren't aware of or aren't aware of at one level. It's just that through our life, through our journey, the way we filter our experiences, the memory of who we truly are, capital S self, which I would say is the soul, through all our experiences, we filter that out sometimes. We simply forget. We move into our mind, which is like the second subdivision of the energy field of JIN SHIN JYUTSU understanding. And the mind's a great processor, but it often gets mistaken as the creator, because there's teachings out there that says, yeah, you know, your mindset, you can create whatever you like. I would agree to the point of saying our attitude towards creation can define or decide how well we can manifest, and we can use the purity of our thinking to help us manifest. But where does that purity of thinking come from? In JIN SHIN JYUTSU, it comes from the heart. It's an art of compassion, or a heart of compassion. And it's that purity that's often missing, because few of us understand, and that includes me, what totally it means to be pure. And I would suggest that it's a journey of discovery rather than a set list of, you are pure because. It's really, in my view at least, a connection to the energy field at its most subtlest level. And at its most subtlest level, it's actually invisible. And that is the Tao. And our mind doesn't or cannot engage at that level. It cannot deal with nothing. It has to have a concept to grab hold of. That's what we forgot. We got so caught up with, oh, it has to be this or that, left or right, up and down, subdivide this, that, and the other. And then we wondered why we got, oh, I believe more than this on this side of the equation than I do on that. So we had duality. When we melded and brought ourselves back to oneness, we realized none of that was real. It was just a description that our minds chose to accept, and over centuries perhaps incorporated it into our being because somehow everybody else thought it was okay. And then along maybe came teachers like Mary Burmeister and Jerome Marai and other teachers to say, yeah, wait a minute, why, if this duality is supposed to be how we understand everything, do we still conflict? Do we still think that this creation of somebody else or some such thing is somehow better comparably than something else? That's the mind, comparing, competing. And then when we quietened down, and some of us learned JIN SHIN JYUTSU or meditation, we actually had experiences, perhaps, that actually, when the mind was really quiet, there was a connection of a feeling in our heart. And it might have been compassion, or it might have been just a sense of loving all what is, or you would know by your own experience of connecting to your heart. And when we begin today, that's where I want to begin on the message level. Can you please mute yourself? And let's have a look at the next slide. Yeah, I found this online, which is a classical rendition of the Kanji. And it didn't have a registered trademark on it, so you can use it okay without somebody jumping on you. And with my understanding as having studied Tao calligraphy, I thought it would be interesting for us to learn to connect and ultimately embody the frequency of the message of JIN SHIN JYUTSU through this because it gave me the opportunity to annotate how you can actually trace it. Because one way to connect to the essence of the message of JIN SHIN JYUTSU could be to trace the three symbols and see what effect it has on our heart. See how we feel about this art of the creator through compassionate human. And I think most of you would have received a copy of this. If you did, don't worry, I will send you a copy afterwards. But for now, let's have a look at these three symbols. And let's just exhale. Drop your shoulders. And just get a sense of how you feel about these three symbols, if you do. It's not about being an artist and being able to trace this perfectly. It's your heart connection to this art of the creator through compassionate human. And someone painted this. Their connection gave them an ability to connect to these symbols, this stroke. And you may or may not connect to that energy. When Zhigang Shah or Master Shah writes calligraphy, he maintains, and he may be right, that he connects to the Tao and the nothingness, the ninth depth, coming through the calligraphies that he writes. Well, we got the art of the creator here through a compassionate human. So you might want to connect to your idea of what the creator might be and what it might feel in relation to compassion. Maybe that's a clue to help you connect here. It's up to your heart how you connect. But we're talking about symbology, the form begetting that message to help us embody at three levels, soul, mind, and body in our energy field. And I think last time I did begin experimenting with the tracing because this particular rendition was new to me. It's different to the one I showed you at first. And what I want us to do, if you feel so drawn, no pun intended, is to trace or draw these symbols one at a time and register how you feel. And then we're going to connect all three together, because to bring anything into oneness, I believe you need to connect. And at the moment, it looks as though these symbols are separate. Right? But they're not really. They're just seeming to be. So we're going to start, and you can see I annotated them with numbers. And I stayed with 1, 2, 3, and 4 because I wanted us to look at each symbol separately before I connect them all together. So one way of tracing, and there's more than one, there's two, or maybe three, that you can do it with. You can do it with your fingers, you can do it with a brush or a pencil or a pen, and you can actually do it with your abdomen in Tai Chi. I don't think we're going to necessarily have time to demonstrate all those different ways today. In fact, I'm already feeling that we're going to have a part 3 of this. However, I want us to at least begin to get that feeling. So, Jitsu Shin Jin or Jin Shin Jitsu. Number 1, the first symbol, Jin. Compassionate and aware human being. You can see the direction by the arrow. We're starting to go from the top down. So just begin. Have you all got your copy there? If you haven't, it doesn't matter. It's here in front of the screen. Just bring your fingers or a pencil or a brush, whatever, and begin there at the top of the first symbol on the left. We always connect from left to right. And that's interesting to me because in JIN SHIN JYUTSU, the body forms from left to right, the exhale coming before the inhale. Are you all with me so far, or are you all gasping for air? Everyone okay?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So I'm going to put my fingers together like this with my thumb connecting to all my fingers like that. I'm going to do. And we all know that the fingers represent energy pathways and the relationships between safety energy locks and JIN SHIN JYUTSU. Straight away, we're connecting at that level. Keep your back as straight as you can. Your body posture is important because it can allow or not the energy to flow more congruently. Relax your shoulders as much as you can. This is a play. Can you mute yourself, please? Okay, I think everybody's muted. I'm just going to have a look.
Huh?
Can you mute yourself? Okay, let us begin with the symbol to the left, going down to the left and then dropping down vertically. Then we're going to go to the top symbol to the right and then down below it to the right again. We'll do it about 3 times. And don't worry about if you didn't connect each symbol to each stroke to each other. I've got another diagram where I begin to show you how you can connect them. Just for now, imagine you're tracing, relax. And see how that felt. Three is the door to understanding. Maybe you didn't get anything. So like I always say with the breath, with JIN SHIN JYUTSU, we talk about 36 breaths, multiples of 9. Maybe it'll take you 9 or more strokes, tracing, before you felt in your heart a connection or not. Okay, so that is the first symbol, JIN. Now let's go to the second symbol, still using your fingers, pen or pencil. SHIN, the creator. And here are the symbols and there are the arrows. So we're going to start on the left again. Exhale. Move your fingers all the way. And it's going to go down to the bottom of the stroke, you can see. And then it moves up from the bottom, then to the left, and then to that next symbol, it's going to go all the way around like a key shape or 2 ears. It's going to go up, and it's going to go down slightly and across. So you've got a cross there, it goes round, and then you connect through the middle, and then it goes up to the top, number 4, and then it drops down to number 5. SHIN, the creator. Let's do it a few more times. Again, I don't want you to worry if you don't get it perfectly right to begin with. It takes a little practice. And at first you may want to rush through it because you want to complete it. That's the mind. The slower you do it, the easier it becomes to embody. So don't rush. I don't mind if you do, but notice the difference when you do it slowly. The energy has more of an opportunity to connect to you, the message, through your fingers, all the way to your heart. Because the hands and the arms, where do they connect? Energetically to the heart. That's why it's an art of compassion when we place our hands and fingers on a body, whether it be a person, an animal, plant. We're coming from that compassion, which is really the high quality or a high quality of the Creator. Okay. How did that feel?
Wow.
That's the Creator, right? Shin or Shen in Chinese. In Hebrew, it's Shema. There's all these connections through the different cultures. And then finally, the third symbol represented there, meaning the art of the Creator, through compassionate human, compassionate and aware human. Let's begin the third symbol. And again, we're starting on the left. Go to the left, move down, all the way down. And it goes up again and it crosses. It's almost like an H shape, the letter H, as it goes across. And then it goes up slightly, number 2 there, before dropping down to 3. Then it goes across to the left to 4, then across to 5, then up to 6, which is next to 2, then across and down, and then over to 7, and then to 8 in the J shape.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
So now let's do it a few more times. Again, I'm not asking you to be accurate, perfect, or anything else. I'm asking you to feel your connection. It's going up and then down and then to the left and then to the right and then up. And then put your brakes on. Do it slowly, because then you can possibly more clearly see which way the strokes are going. Now, I'm not going to say that this is the only way, direction-wise, of tracing this calligraphy. It was the way that came to me naturally. If there was another way that came to you that felt more natural to you, experiment with it. Because I'm not you and you're not me. And we're where we are in our journey. So don't be afraid to experiment either. But the mind likes templates, likes guides. Sure. Helps us get a bit of first depth, bit of structure. Sure.
Wow.
I hear wows. Not sure why, but to me it is a bit of a wow because it's revelatory in a way.
Yes.
You may be beginning, or you may not, to feel those strokes connecting to different parts of your body, different organs, maybe, different pathways, maybe even at the cellular level. And also notice if you miss a stroke, which you might, did that feel different? Did it feel incomplete? Or did it matter at all?
Wow.
Yeah. So when I first studied graphic design, we had to do lettering, but not this. We never sat and connected. We just had to do it accurately with a pen. And that was it. We didn't engage our
Mhm.
full connection from the heart.
Mhm.
And yet, I believe some of the artists that speak to us most are those that connect to us soul to soul. And this is where the soul communicates through the heart.
Mm.
That's it.
Wow.
Okay. How did that feel? Anybody?
Wow.
Are you still with us? Anyone have anything they want to say at this point, or forever hold your peace? Stay in the peace.
Sure, I'll say something.
Who's this?
Uh, I'll say something. I was fascinated with the complexity, the simplicity in a way, but also then the first one was much simpler and then they became more complex. And the art and the creator were more complex naturally, it just seems to me. And the art part in particular, there was just the connectedness, especially of the second and the third, the art and the creator. There was a relationship between them, and especially the art part. There was just so much going on, which is almost like looking at a painting. I like to paint, and so I'm just sort of relating it to what I think about and do. So it was, yeah, and the whole idea about using all the fingers, which is what we do when we do JIN SHIN JYUTSU and what we do when we create. Um, so and I wasn't, thank you, Terry. I wasn't feeling a sense of I had to make it perfect. I just was doing it to the best of my ability. And I could see how this was done by the human hand, because there's times when the brush goes down and time when it lifts off, and it makes a pattern of that on the page. Thanks very much. I appreciate this.
Yeah, who was this?
Anne.
Anne. Okay. Yeah, I think everything that I heard you say is a valid experience, yeah?
Okay.
And the next thing that I want to suggest or inquire about, when we approach another being,
Mm.
how are we embodying that message, number one? And number two, would a simple practice, well, fairly simple, practice like this help us connect more to that being before we began the practice? By, some people used to say to me, I connect with Mary Burmeister before I practice the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, or I connected to Jiro. I hadn't heard many people saying they connected to the Kanji. How might you transfer this experience, if you wanted to giving you that energetic connection to the core message of JIN SHIN JYUTSU before you connected to a being? Would it be something that you might feel could be useful?
Mm.
I mean, before you see someone or some an animal or whatever, the mind might be saying, "Oh, yeah, I got to do this, that, and the other. Read the pulses, da da da." How about if I just came in at the soul level, the message, the warehouse of the information, the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU is bringing to this being? How about if I just came from there and then allowed the energy connections with the fingers, the wrist, the pulses, the body reading within that envelope? Would it be something worth at least experimenting with?
Mhm. Mhm.
Might be. It might make a difference. So I want to encourage you, if you're open to this idea, to practice it, and then maybe
Wow.
see if it did make a difference when you approached a client,
Mhm.
human, animal, vegetable, whatever, and what difference it made. And again, step back from your mind's judgment. Just feel it. And so I've added a few more strokes here, the black ones, the dotted line, because what Zhigang Shah, what Master Shah did that was different from traditional Chinese calligraphy, is he worked with a form that he learned from the last teacher of the last emperor. And it's called Ibiza. And Ibiza is oneness calligraphy. Everything's joined.
Mhm.
So you can see I've put some dotted lines how I've joined the left to the right, and then the
Mhm.
right to the left. Then you go through the movement, and then you have the second symbol, and then you connect to the last one.
Mhm.
One thing I didn't do, which I could do and will do, is when you get to that last stroke that looks like a J on the art there, the Jitsu, you can bring it all the way back to the top in a semicircle. I know Master Shah, when he connects, he does it in a whole circle 3 times. And then he begins, and he says that that 3 times is bringing us to that awareness, that understanding of what we call ninth depth. I don't want to give you too much information because I think the embodying and the feeling starts the
Mhm.
journey, and then we begin to unravel different areas or see different things in it, and then develop our understanding and connection with it. Is that making sense? So what you can do now, I think you all got this copy with the black dotted lines. What you would maybe like to do is now practice this with the connecting lines. So the 3 become 1. You don't feel that all of a sudden you got this separate language, because it's not, is it? It's a statement, art of the creator through a knowing, aware, compassionate human. It's a sentence. It's one.
Mhm.
So let us begin by practicing this in a connected way. And if you want to, when you come to the bottom there, the art symbol, when it comes to that last stroke, the 8, the J shape, you can whip it round, semicircle, and go back again if you want. Let us begin. Exhale, drop your shoulders. Connect. Heart to Kanji. Heart to the soul, to the message of the JIN SHIN JYUTSU Kanji. Feel it. Then engage with it with your fingers. Begin in your own time, and remember, fast or slow is not the point, but the slower you go, you may have a better opportunity of engaging with the energy quality, the message. Yeah, you can even connect 3 to 4, and then 4 across to 5, and then jump up to 6 with a dotted line, which I didn't do. Because actually it's kind of tricky not to blur the overall image when you're doing all the annotations. Anyway, bear with me. And breathe out, and then naturally breathe in. As you're breathing out, you're letting go of any anxiety about this. Let it go. As you breathe in, you're absorbing the message of the art of the creator through compassionate and aware human. I mean, in the Japanese, it's a very yang male-oriented society, so it was always described as compassionate man. I changed it to human because Hu also is understood to mean the heart. And to me, it doesn't matter yang or yin, the connection is with the Hu, the heart, if that makes some sense. And notice, again, if there's any connection with any energy within you, any organ, any pathway, maybe even at the cellular level. So exhaling, letting go of apprehension, anxiety, anything else that's clogging the wires, and inhale the message, the art of the creator through compassionate human. JIN SHIN JYUTSU is actually how it's pronounced in Japanese. Jutsu.
Jutsu.
Yeah, JIN SHIN JYUTSU.
Jutsu.
Those of you that have studied with Wayne Hackett may have heard him say that many times. Jutsu.
Can I say something else?
Is that Anne again?
Um, yes.
Yeah, hi.
The connection with Tai Chi, I've done Tai Chi all my life. And
Uh-huh.
when you do Tai Chi, obviously as you go through the movements with your body, you're experiencing a change, which then carries with you. And I'm sure it's an ancient design. And this is the exact same thing as we go through the movements, but with our hand, we're experiencing that kind of connection, whatever it is that we experience. It's just sort of occurred to me that to me, it's an exact parallel with Tai Chi. Going through it creates what we then carry with us. Thanks.
Yes, and indeed, um, the second approach to tracing that I learnt is using the Dantian, or I think they talk about golden light balls. Yeah. You actually move through the strokes of the calligraphy with your belly.
I wanted to find out more about that. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that with everyone, but I might just show you at the end what I mean, because I
Great.
can see already that this is going to have another presentation where I'm going to explore a little more. Oh, and by the way, you can chant when you do calligraphy.
Mm.
You can chant out loud or you can chant silently. So you have a yang approach or a yin approach, yang being out loud, yin being quiet, and see how that changes the energy. So I'm not going to suggest to you a particular melody, but as you go through the symbols, you might quietly start chanting in relation to the symbol. So JIN SHIN JYUTSU. How did that feel? You see, I think the creator gave us so many tools,
Yeah, right, right, right.
and I'm not against science, but it's interesting how the medical profession, in many ways, have moved away from what nature gave us already
Right,
to create machines to do the same thing.
right,
And I would argue that they may appear at first to be quick or quicker, and in some cases, absolutely necessary. But overall, what is the quality of energy that creates in your energy field
right.
without going into 5G and all that stuff? What is the quality and how lasting is it? And if you just followed nature's way, would you need to have what is often quite expensive equipment or medicines as much as you are told you do? I know many of you that do JIN SHIN JYUTSU have looked at that and said, yeah, I want a more nature's way approach to harmonizing myself. Well, here's another tool. Here's another way you can embody that nature's way, that ninth depth Tao. Play with it. See if it helps. JIN SHIN JUTSU. Silently.
Awesome. One of the things about the macrobiotic diet is that we don't use machines. We don't use a blender or a chopper. We do it all by hand to avoid the energy of the machine within our food.
Right. Makes perfect sense to me. Folks, I think most of us realize everything has an energetic field. Not all of us, though, know how to dowse within that field. When I say dowse, I'm not just talking about a pendulum, although you may use a pendulum. When I lived in England, I was fortunate to meet a guy called Jack Temple, who ended up being Princess Diana, amongst other the royal family's dowser. And he had pendulums up the yin-yang. But in the end, he too realized what he was really connecting with was the heart of the energy field, which was the center. And interestingly enough, to me at least, when you place a pendulum next to your heart center, guess what? It stays neutral, no judgment, doesn't go left or right or up and down in particular. It often actually just, and then stops. It's like it's the center of our being, our heart. Because that's where, as I say, my understanding at least, my experience is where the soul messages with us, and the soul can message with us. I believe they talk about God has your back. It comes through the back of the body, through the fourth chakra. And you just said, and the chant that resonates with the heart. Ah. How many of you have read or even chanted? Ah, it's the heart. Heart, heart, heart. All right, I'm just going to complete this last tracing here. And you can continue wherever you are till you come to the end, and then just loop it round to the top, back to the first symbol, the JIN. Tell me when you're all done, because I can see the time has gone past and I have gone into the timeless zone. You all done?
Not quite. Oops.
You weren't done?
That's okay. It's all right. Interesting.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Part 2. Part 3 is due. There is so much more I'd like. Well, there is some more that I'd like to share with you. And if that's something that appeals to you, you have the sheet. Practice.
Great.
Maybe you don't have to keep a diary, but just be aware of how you felt, and maybe practice before you treat, or just practice anywhere, anytime. It's good to break the barrier of thinking you have to do certain things at certain times, I think. I know there are all kinds of ideas about the best time to do this and the best time to do that. I actually think the best time to do anything is now.
Right.
At that moment, you had that feeling, do it.
Right. Thank you.
He, she who hesitates is lost. Well, I don't think they're lost. Paradise lost, paradise regained. You just breathe out and then you breathe back in. There's lots of statements that have been made over the years and the centuries, which actually I believe are very limiting. And when you get to understand a little bit more about how your energy field works, you might go, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why did people even follow that?
Right.
Well, people are where they are, right? They're on their journey. That's where we show compassion.
Mhm.
They're where they are. And we may see it differently, feel it differently, and they may too. And that's okay. Important thing is, can we become it? Can we live it? And then just be it. No judgment, right, wrong, this, that, and the other. I mean, we do have a bit of structure, like with the calligraphy. Sure. If you can, avoid allowing the mind to judge too harshly. Just go, oh, I did it that way and it said that way. Oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's a variation on a theme. If you like jazz music, that'll be just perfect. It's a variation on a theme.
Right.
And here is,
In the present.
yes, here's that book. I haven't set up Zooms so that it's not
Okay.
able to show you the title clearly, but it's called Tao Calligraphy. I'll put it in the chat room there just briefly. Let's put it in there. You can get it on Amazon. And it's by Dr. and Master Zhigang Shah.
Show chat. Where is his chat?
And he gives you a whole deal on understanding, which I don't have memorized. And so there's an overlapping connection, even though China and Japan were often at odds. A lot of the information that Japan received originally came from China.
Mhm.
And Master Mirai, Jiro, who developed the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, developed it from principles of traditional Chinese medicine, amongst other things. Maybe some of you knew that, but he did. So it's not like it was divorced from the bigger picture of all the other cultures that have looked at the energy field in the body. So he had that understanding. So, what's the time? 12:58. Just briefly, I'll give you a glimpse of what's to come. You actually do that. Here's your lower dantian beneath your belly button. For those people who do Qigong and Tai Chi, here's your heart down here. My understanding is Tai Chi people and Qigong people talk about the Tao actually entering at the back here through the Ming Men and then filling this whole umbilical area. And they move this and they think about it in terms of a Jin Dan, which is a golden light ball. And they move this whole area of their body. Those of you like Anne who practice Tai Chi, you are welcome to Tai Chi practice that
Right.
art of the creator. Do it and see how you feel. For those of you that don't have the time, I'm going to do it next week alongside 3 other aspects of this work. So thank you very much for listening. Anyone got any questions, any comments, any feedback?
I can't access the chat, so could you just tell me the name of the book again? How is it Tao Calligraphy?
It is, yeah, and
Or-
Gal with a T. I know
Yes,
sometimes it's D for some folks.
okay,
Um,
okay, great, thank you.
so let's see who's been with us. Let's have a look in the gallery. I think a few of you have already disappeared. I don't know what that means. But anyway, hopefully that was at least a tad interesting. Yeah, and
Thank you very much.
if it draws your heart, practice if you wish. No recipe about practicing certain amount of times, although if you want to connect it to JIN SHIN JYUTSU, why not do at least 9 multiples of 3 and then 36. See how that feels, right? I think next week when we have a bit more time just to me and you to practice rather than me to talk about it, that'll be an opportunity to do that. And like I say, slow is good. This is where the rabbit and the tortoise come to be understood in terms of how well the energy is integrating. If you rush through it, yeah, you'll get some kind of feeling. But if you go nice and slow, like the tortoise, there'll be more of a sense, I believe, of integration. All right, I am going to stop the recording.